Hey everyone, Coach Aldero here. I want to talk to you about some common mistakes that youth players or novice players tend to make. Now obviously anybody can make these mistakes, but over the years of coaching and skill development, I've noticed these common themes from players. So the first common mistake is to play the game with their legs straight, right? And I don't mean like locked out like that. I just mean they walk around, everything is tall. Straight up isn't always bad because there's going to be times where you want to deceive a defender or just walk the ball up, and you don't need to be in this low stance. However, these players play straight up and tall everything they do. From when they catch the ball, they're tall always, or when they're playing defense and they're in a help position, they're tall always. Great players have the ability to bend at the waist, whether it's on offense or on defense. So if I'm in help defense, I need to have my hips dropped right here. I have my back leaning slightly forward. My head is on a swivel. You cannot play great help defense standing in this stance right here. Now offensively, again, if I want to go from slow to fast, I can always start straight up, but eventually I've got to drop into this stance. So novice players, they have a great tendency to only play in this position right here. They want to rebound like that. When they go to box out or block out, they want to tag the player like this, as opposed to sinking their hips, making contact, and then going to get the ball. So players and coaches, please urge your players. The game is primarily played in this stance right here, whether it's on offense or defense. Common problem number two, players do not go to the ball. Now it is not always the passer's fault on turnovers. A lot of players first starting out, or really any time, but primarily just starting out, will not go to the ball. They'll stand and wait for the ball. Now, a player who knows to come to the ball will go through the ball and catch the ball without waiting for it. You'll see this a lot. And again, that's kind of that straight up position, but you have to go through the pass and go to the ball. Otherwise, that's when the defense plays the passing lane and can get a tip or interception and go down the other way. So make sure your players are going through the ball. Another common mistake is when players do not pivot. They do not move their feet, especially when pressured. And they have the ability to pivot, but they choose not to. So they'll do a lot of this and just shy away and back up, when they could be pivoting. They could be reverse, they could be front, they could cross, they can go all the way around. So a lot of novice or beginning players, they tend to just shy away, do this, and now they're dead in the water because that player, that defensive player, has them back on their heels. Players who are great at creating separation have the ability to rip, pivot, create space, and back into space to make passes and to make plays, even after they've picked up their dribble. So remember, you can pivot. Don't just shy away. Make sure you're moving your feet. You're going into the defender. You can back up, you can cross, and you can reverse all the way around. Another very common mistake is to pick your dribble up too soon. So players, even when they have distance between them and the defense, they do not keep their dribble. They pick it up and they think, oh, okay, you're going to be open. And now they've lost their ability to dribble, and they're way too far from the basket to shoot. So now everyone is denied. So players, please, and coaches stress, keep your dribble alive until you have a definitive pass, or make sure you're working on passing off the dribble. Because if I can pass off the dribble, I can take it back, right? If they're not open, the ball's floating in my pocket, I don't have to throw it. So players, please keep your dribble alive until you have a definite pass. Do not pick it up too soon and then just stand it. And going back on what we said before, especially if they come back on you, make sure you start to pivot. Another common mistake is keeping the ball in public property even when a defender's on you. So players who do this with a player that's or defender that's very close, usually 9 out of 10 times what happens? It becomes a what? A jump ball. They're not ripping the ball from hip to hip or ankle to ankle. And that kind of piggybacks back onto pivoting action, because if you just do this, you're not protecting the ball. You've got to be able to rip, step in, jab, and keep it in private property. Do not keep the ball right here. And not that this is wrong, because you can shimmy and move the ball in front of your body. But when you have a defender right there, obviously you've got to be able to do both. You've got to be able to shimmy the ball to shake your defender, but you've got to be able to put that ball on private property too, so the jump ball situation doesn't occur. Now, this common mistake really applies to the younger player who's just starting out, and that's slapping the ball when they're dribbling and only being able to dribble with their hand on top of the ball. Remember, as a dribbler, you need to be able to push through the ball, and they also never want to put their hand behind the ball. This is not the only way to dribble. You could turn dribble, you could simply relax dribble, you can pull the ball into your pocket. Now, that doesn't mean a younger player is going to be able to do that, but they need to know that this is not the only way to dribble. And slapping the ball primarily is pretty much not a good practice unless you are splitting the defense and you're tapping it through a spot. But to only be able to do this with a slap is no good. We want to be able to push and extend through the ball with the ball in front of our body without having to go always to the side and slap. So remember, insist on your players pushing through the ball, extending through their elbow. And remember, having a straight pound dribble is not the only way to dribble. You could turn, you could V, you could pocket, you could float, right? You don't only have to slap down. Another issue with players in a game type situation is only catching and dribbling right away without looking first. And it's not that dribbling is bad or you'll never have to dribble right away, is do you see your teammates open right away before you dribble? So for example, if I'm a player that's by the basket, I'm catching an outlet pass, right? Say I'm the point guard, but this could be anybody. Ideally, you want to look first and then dribble, because you might not have to dribble. So if you can look first and see a teammate to pass ahead, that's even better than you taking 1, 2, and now you're too late, right? So catch and then look first, dribble second. Another common mistake of younger players is to shoot the ball with 2 hands like that. And again, I always say this, it's not that you cannot make shots like that, but you are creating more variables. So coaches, players, please, you have a shooting hand under the ball, you have a balance hand. Ideally, you would like to push through the ball and keep your balance hand straight, right, just like that. We don't want to get into a habit of pushing the ball with 2 hands, because now we got one hand pushing this way, we got another hand pushing that way, and those pressures have to be perfect for the ball to go in. And it's not that you can't make shots, but you could be a much better shooter if you're only snapping your shooting hand. As a coach, I've made this mistake myself, and that's only having players practice things really fast. So for example, on a stationary ball handling drill, seeing how many crossovers you can get in 30 seconds is good, and I still do that. However, to neglect the slow parts of the game is not good. You want to add in the slow parts, the 1, 2, float, 1, 2, float. So there's times where you have to play slow and poised and under control. Going slow is a skill, right? From slow to fast, fast to slow, from high to low. Those are all skills. You've got to be able to float the ball. You've got to be able to simply turn, pound in a relaxed state to see what's going on, right? Not everything has to be super duper fast. So please don't just practice your fast drills, but practice being able to go from fast to slow, to hang the ball legally with your hand on the side or on the top, right? 1, 2, float, 1, 2, float. That's my slow moment. Slow, through fast, slow. Fast, 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 slow. right? You've got to be able to do both, fast and slow. Players and coaches, it's not always bending your knees that is the issue with shooting. In fact, bending your knees too much is the issue with shooting. A lot of coaches and players or parents will shout out things like, bend your knees every time a player misses a foul shot. Guess what? It's not always a player's legs that are the issue. Matter of fact, it's the legs that are causing the issue. And everybody yelling at them to bend their knees more is not going to help. That's like going to the doctor. No matter what happens, they're going to say, "Oh, you got the flu." "But doctor, I have a broken arm." You got the flu, right? It's not always the same issue for everybody. And those legs cause a lot of issues when a player bends down super duper low and then everything is out of sync. A lot of times all a player has to do is sink their hips a little bit, move the ball first, and then add in the legs at the end. And I'll go into more depth, and I have more detailed shooting videos on how exactly to work with the player, but I'm just saying from a player point of view, a coach and a parent, it is not always the player's legs that are the issue, and telling them and yelling at them, bend your knees no matter what happens because they miss a shot is not always the problem. So again, to reiterate, and I'll go over this real quick, you only have to bend your knees a little bit, you drop your hips, and then the ball moves first, and then you add in the legs at the end. Stop telling players to go super duper low. It causes your upper body and your lower body to be out of sync. We want the ball to move first and then add in the legs at the very end. I see this mistake all the time. Players coming in, and what do? They go right to Steph Curry three-pointers from 25 feet out. And look, I love shooting from deep. I've shot deep in games as a player, but I've never started out there because I know coaches have told me, I've had great coaches tell me, hey, you've got to start close, see the ball go in, gradually move back. Stop starting from 25 feet out and chucking up threes before you've made 10 from 2 feet away, right? Start close, gradually move back. Do not start from 25 feet out. That's how I know when someone is not a real basketball player, is when they start bombing threes before a workout. They haven't even seen the ball go in yet. So please, coaches, urge your players to start close, gradually move back. Players, stop chucking up threes from 25 feet out when you just got to the gym. Get loose, start close, see the ball go in, gradually move back. A lot of coaches will say, why would that kid practice all those dribbling combinations? He's not going to do that in a game. And if he does, he's getting his ass out. Guess what? That's not the point. The point is to rep things out. Repetition. Just like you tell a player, hey, you got to make 1,000 shots. If a player makes 1,000 shots, that's a good thing. But if they dribble 1,000 times, that's automatically a bad thing. They're working on the trait and the skill of being a good ball handler. Just like Johnny, who made 1,000 shots this morning, is not going to take 1,000 shots in the game, is he? Just because you practice a lot of dribbles in a row, it doesn't mean you're going to over dribble in the game. It's the raw skills that the child is working on. It's the raw skill of being able to shoot the ball. Taking 1,000 shots is not a game situation. Dribbling 1,000 times is not a game situation. Not everything has to be a game situation. This, what Pistol Pete used to do, is not a game situation, but I'm working on the hands, right? I'm not going to do that in a game. I'm not going to dribble 10,000 times in a game. I'm not going to take 10,000 shots in the game. I'm not going to take 50 shots in the game. I'm most likely not going to take 30 shots in the game. But nobody tells anybody, hey, stop shooting so many shots in practice, right? Dribbling is a skill that needs to be repped out. So don't always criticize that player for repping out dribbles. It's okay. They're practicing. It doesn't mean they're automatically going to go into the game and dribble with their head down 10,000 times and not pass to people. Now, if they do that, obviously, game situational wise, you have to talk to them and tell them what's right. But practicing dribbling a lot doesn't always result in a kid dribbling 10,000 times in the game. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Please consider subscribing to the channel and clicking that like button so I know what type of content you enjoy. Also, please consider commenting so we can go back and forth and have a dialogue about what you thought about this video. Thanks, guys.